it's Megan here and welcome back to my channel. I have a wrap-up for you. In fact, I have a double wrap-up for you because I have not told you what I've read for the month since May, or rather since April, because I need to give you May and June's wrap-ups. So without further ado, let's just jump on into it. I really don't remember which books I read in May, which books I read in June. I just have a stack here and a list here. So we're gonna go through it and we're gonna start with the ones that I do not own. So I read them as audiobooks or ebooks. First up, we have The Fallen Kingdom. This is the third book of the... Hold on, I don't even remember. It's the one trilogy with the Fae, and I'm blanking on the name. The Falconer. I kept wanting to say The Phoenix. Yes, it's book 3 of the Falconer trilogy by Elizabeth May. I ended up unhauling my Falconer book. I enjoyed the book. It's probably not one I will go back and read, however, especially following with books 2 and 3. It's not that they were bad. As I said, they were probably a 3.5 for me, but they're just not ones that I have to have on my shelf or ones that I desperately want to reread. Fallen Kingdom was a good ending to the trilogy and it was satisfying for the trilogy. It was just kind of underwhelming overall, unfortunately. Next was Incense and Sensibility. I really enjoyed this one. It is, I believe, book 3 out of 4 of the Jane Austen retellings within the Samani. I think the author is Samani, but they're a family of, I believe, Indian descent, and we're learning about each of the family members and their romances through Jane Austen retelling. So the first is Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors. The second is Recipe for Persuasion, and then we had Incense and Sensibility, and this is following our main guy character, or main brother character. He is running for a political position. I believe it was mayor or governor, or like one of the higher ones, and he is doing well at the campaign. However, at one of the political party campaign things, a shooting happens and he has to go to his ex, who is a healing and meditation and yoga specialist, in order to get over his PTSD, but to work through those feelings he feels whenever he goes back out on stage, so that he can do that, because it is his goal to still be a politician. But there's the weird, like, harboring feelings for his ex thing going on, and it's like a second chance romance, so it's really good. Next is All the Feels. This is a companion novel to Spoiler Alert. Spoiler Alert is following a main actor character from a famous TV show and one of the fans, and then All the Feels is following that main character actor's co-actor, and then that co-actor's manager, or like behavioral specialist. I don't even know what she was called. I think they called her his minder. But he has a reputation for doing bad boy things, like going out and drinking, getting in bar fights, that sort of thing, and he is in the final season, so he needs to keep his reputation under control. So they hire this girl to be his minder, and it's like, I wouldn't say enemies to lovers, but it's like co-workers to friends to lovers, which is really good. Next is Soulmate Equation, one of my favorite romance books I've read. Soulmate Equation follows this girl who is kind of over dating. She's just over the whole getting to know someone and going on dates and being away from her daughter, and she ends up, due to her best friend, entering this dating profile thing in which they will find your soulmate based on your DNA, and she ends up getting paired with the head of the company, and they have to fake date in order to show that this dating profile works, so that the guy's success can still come together. And he ends up like paying her so that she can be successful and like pay her bills. There's a lot of weird like relational tension, I guess you could say, going on there, because he's technically paying her to be his like girlfriend. Then they end up developing feelings for each other, of course, because what else happens in a romance book? But so good. Definitely one of my favorite Christina Laurens, if not my favorite, and definitely one of my favorite romances. Next, I read the Neverland Wars. This was the fave pick for the book club, and this was a Peter Pan-ish retelling. I wouldn't necessarily even go as far as to say retelling. Our main character is from the normal London world. However, everyone knows about Peter Pan, everyone knows about Neverland. Magic is a prevalent thing in this London. They are at war. So like the adult magic versus the child illusion, imagination rather, magic of the Peter Pan Neverland world is against the magic of science in the adult world. So that was kind of an interesting take on Peter Pan. Next, I read Whispers at Moonrise. This is the third book of the Born at Midnight series out of 4. This is by CC Hunter. Definitely gives Wattpad nostalgic vibes. It's a love triangle between a werewolf and a fae and a to be disclosed character, and it's so good. It's so cheesy. It's so like not even like good writing, but it's so good, if you get what I'm saying. So that's Whispers at Moonrise. Next up, we have Two Can Keep a Secret. This is a thriller, and this is by the same person who writes One of Us is Lying and One of Us is Next, and it was a really good book. I did not expect the little twist, and it was definitely a good story. I enjoyed it. Then Two Can Keep a Secret is essentially about these set of twins are going back to their mother's hometown, and they have not been there in ever because the mother's sister was murdered in this town, and then several years later another young girl was murdered in this town or went missing, and it's like unsolvable mysteries the twins are starting, and the murderer is back and making theirself known. So yeah. And then I read Age of the Republic, which is a Star Wars graphic novel. This covers many different heroes and many different villains from the Age of the Republic in Star Wars. So you get kind of short stories on Anakin, Yoda, Darth Vader, Darth Maul, Boba Fett, Obi-Wan. I can't think of any others, but there was a ton in this book. I think we even got like General Grievous and Dooku, so it just goes into like every character from that time that is somewhat prevalent to the story and a little more detail about them, and I really enjoyed it because it gave me a little more to Anakin than I previously have gotten, so I did enjoy that, and well, all of them. It gave me more to all of them really, so I enjoy mixing in the comics to this Star Wars, I don't even know what to call it, like it's not a readathon, but like Star Wars saga read. So those are the books that I read and do not own. I do have 2 books that I started and did not finish. One of them is the Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. This is book 2 of the Raven Cycle series, and I'm probably never going to pick up this series again. I'm going to be straight up honest. I know this will break a lot of people's hearts. I enjoyed the Raven Boys, but it did not suck me in enough to truly care to continue the series, and I definitely felt that when I tried to read the second book. I just didn't care. I love the characters, but I don't care about the storyline, and that's making me realize I might be more of a plot person than a character person, which is weird because I've always thought I was a character person because I love Six of Crows, and that's pretty much all characters, so I don't know. I don't know what I am. I don't know. But this is gonna be a pass for me for now. Maybe someday I'll get back to it, but probably not because I already have 600 books on my shelves that I still need to read that I already own. So why waste time on a book that I'm just not feeling, you know? And then I also started Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. I don't know what it was about this book, but it was giving me serious like anxiety, and I just needed to set it down. I do think I want to get back to it someday, but today is not that day, and we will maybe come back to it later. But we are following a therapist who basically needs a therapist, and it was not the time to read this book. It was not the time, let me tell you. That was all the books that I read and don't own / DNF'd. Now moving on to the books I read and own. I'm just gonna go right through the pile here. First we have Everything, Everything. This is a somewhat popular novel because it became a movie, and we are following this girl who has a disease known as SCID, and it is a severe like compromised immune system disorder. There we go. And essentially she's allergic to like pretty much everything. So if she goes outside of her little bubble, like literal like detoxin air filtered bubble, she could die. And she ends up meeting the new kid through the window. He moves in next door, and they like, have you seen the You Belong With Me Taylor Swift music video? They kind of pass notes back and forth like that, and they email back and forth, and they get to know each other and of course fall in love. And she ends up deciding that love is worth everything, and leaves her house. And the rest is up to you to read to find out. I enjoyed this one. It was super cute. However, I do think that because I already read it, I don't think I'll ever reread it, especially since I watched the movie right after. I feel like I've taken in as much of the story as I can, so this is probably going to be an unhaul now. And speaking of our Pride and Prejudice Jane Austen romance retellings, I also did read Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors and Recipe for Persuasion. I forgot these were in the stack, or I would have talked about them earlier when I was talking about Incense and Sensibility. So they are by Sonali Dev, and they are the Rahe family books. Yes. So Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors, we are following a doctor who believes that her work is everything to her, and she makes it her top priority. However, she is kind of realizing that it might be time to start finding romance. However, she gets trying to remember how they meet. The main character's sister has cancer, and they meet because he comes to some of the appointments, and it's, I don't know if it's enemies to lovers, but it is a really cute romance. This one is my favorite of the series, Recipe for Persuasion. This is a second chance romance. It's enemies to lovers. Well, like friends to lovers to never talking to each other, exes, enemies, to begrudging allies, to lovers. Yeah, it's complex. Our main character enters a cooking show, and our other main character is a celebrity soccer star, and he is one of the celebrities on the show. Imagine Dancing with the Stars, but it's Cooking with the Stars. And they are paired up, and they have to win the competition so that she can save her father's restaurant. And I loved it. I loved it so much, you guys. It was so good. Please read Recipe for Persuasion if you're gonna read at least one of these books. Next, I read These Divided Shores. This is a book 2 to These Rebel Waves. This is a pirate fantasy, YA, adventure, magic, all sorts of things novel. The characters that I wanted to get together got together. Couldn't be happier. Love that. And then we also have a lot going on with the world, a lot going on with character growth, and I really enjoyed this one. Sarah Rosh is a beautiful author. Like, I love their work. Yes, I can't wait to read other books by Sarah. Next we have I Kissed Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. This one was a little tiny bit of a letdown for me. I adore Casey McQuiston's other two books, Red, White, and Royal Blue, and One Last Stop, and I had as many high hopes for I Kissed Shara Wheeler. I do think it was the little bit of like YA tropes that made this one a bit of a letdown for me, so I might be unhauling this one actually. I don't know if I liked it enough to reread it. It was cute. I'm probably giving it a 3.5 4-star, but I don't know if it was good enough for me to want to keep on my shelves. I still highly recommend people read it. It was still a fun read. Our main character is on the hunt to find Shara Wheeler alongside two other characters, all three of which have been kissed by Shara right before she mysteriously disappeared, and they are sent on a wild scavenger hunt to find her. I do like how the second half kind of delved into the politics and like what it means to be gay in a highly religious school system or community, so I think that was good. However, I don't know. I almost wish the scavenger hunt had gone on longer, but I do love the way that this book ended. So I have a lot of conflicting feelings on this one. We'll see what I do with it. Next up we have Kingdom Keepers by Ridley Pearson. This is book 1 of I believe 7 or 8. In this we are following a set of 5 kids who were specifically chosen to be DHIs, Daylight Hologram Imaging, or Disney Host Interactives. Essentially they are holograms, or they're recorded to be interactive holograms that tour people or answer questions around the Magic Kingdom park. And these kids were specifically chosen because they have gained the ability to travel into the park after dark through their holograms and defeat the sources of evil that are trying to take over. This one's interesting because it actually says Maleficent is the lesser evil to the big bad, so I'm just like, who is the big bad? I need to know. This is definitely giving like I would have loved this series when I was young. Not my favorite series, but it's still entertaining, and I'll probably keep it just for like that childhood nostalgic factor. Yeah, it was interesting, but I think that this would be fun for maybe future generations to read in my family someday, so I'm gonna hang on to this series for now. Next up we have Gallant by V.E. Schwab, and V.E. Schwab does it again. Another stellar book. This is a standalone, I believe YA, although it could also lean middle grade, novel about a young girl orphan who discovers she's actually from a magical family with a secret, and she has the power to like see ghosts or these like shadows that were previously like humans. I don't think that they call them ghosts in here, but I forget what they call them. Yeah, I'm not seeing it in the synopsis. I don't think they call them ghosts, like maybe like spectrals or like something like that. And it is her curiosity that drives her to Gallant and to find out what this secret is. And it was scary. It definitely got scary at parts, but I really enjoyed this one, and V.E. Schwab, as I said, does it again, so highly recommend reading this one. I think it's a perfect like September, October spooky read, so yes. Next up we have Master and Apprentice. This is a Star Wars book in the like era of Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and we're specifically following their brotherhood or like their apprenticeship together. So Qui-Gon's mastering of Obi-Wan's apprentice, if that makes sense. And I really liked this one because we don't get to delve a lot into Qui-Gon in episode 1. So this gave me more insight into Qui-Gon and who he is as a character, which I really like. I always love learning more and more and more details, especially about Star Wars. And this is Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan actually struggling in their apprenticeship and learning how to like fight and work together. And they're two very different people. Qui-Gon is very much a like rule breaker, testing the council, like really questioning if what the council is choosing is right, whereas Obi-Wan is just following the council blindly and accepting that whatever they say is right. And it's a very like conflicting relationship between the two. However, Qui-Gon is offered a seat on the Jedi Council in this book, so we are also learning about his inner conflict on whether he should go with the Jedi Council and maybe change the way things are done, or sticking with Obi-Wan and like fulfilling his promise to his apprentice. So good. Highly recommend. Please read this one. Definitely one of my favorite Star Wars books so far. The final book I read is The Love Hypothesis, and this was also another really fun romance. In this we are following Olive, who was previously dating a guy, and she started to pick up on how the guy and her best friend were having like good vibes with each other, and Olive, wasn't really feeling the guy, so she wanted her best friend to shoot her shot at this guy. However, the best friend was like, no, I gotta live up to the best friend code and not date my friend's exes. So Olive is trying to convince her best friend that she has moved on, she doesn't feel any feelings for this guy. So when her best friend walks by, she chooses the first guy she sees standing next to her and grabs him and kisses him. And it ends up being one of the professors, who is known for being cruel and harsh and just cold-hearted. And she gets to see another side of him when they start fake dating, because he wants to help her with this tomfoolery of a fake dating to get her best friend to date this other guy situation. And it was so cute. I really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed the like more serious topics as well. I think they needed to be brought to light, and yeah, definitely 5-star here. Loved the Love Hypothesis. So those are all the books I read in May and June. Let me know what you guys read down below in the comments, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye friends.